There you go.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Shaidalin Tauke Aho. I have my partner here with me today, Les Harper. We will be talking about land tenure in the Cook Islands. Um, we have done some research into how land and properties work in the Cook Islands. And but first of all, let's look into the background of the Cook Islands. Here is the map of the Pacific Ocean, and the Cook Islands are a self-governing island country that is in the South Pacific Ocean. It is in free association with New Zealand, and uh, it compromises 15 islands, and all 15 islands are divided into two um, parts of Cook Islands, where there is the Northern Cook Islands and also the Southern Cook Islands. The Cook Islands are located northeast of New Zealand, east of Samoa, and if you uh, if you ever search up the map, the Cook Islands on the world map, you will see that the Cook Islands are closer to American Samoa. The total land area of the Cook Islands is equal to 240 square kilometers. It is it covers 15 islands, as I have mentioned in the beginning, where all these 15 islands spread over 2 million square kilometers. The largest island in the Cook Islands is known as Rarotonga. The population of the Cook Islands is equal to 17,459 people. Also, fun fact about, or an interesting fact about the Cook Islands is that it is known as tourist destination because of not only because of the beach in the Cook Islands, but because of its diving locations. Um, the Cook Islands, there are 61,839 New Zealand Cook Islanders. Cook Islanders are spread among not only New Zealand, but Australia as well. In the Cook Islands, it has a capital city, and it's called Avarua. Avarua is located in Rarotonga Island, which is the capital island of the Cook Islands. Rarotonga Island is the most populated, not only the largest, but the most populated of the Cook Islands. It is about 2,100 miles, 3,400 kilometers. So we have here a picture of the beautiful island of Rarotonga, which is the capital island of Cook Islands. A little background about the Cook Islands and their connections to New Zealand. There are an estimation of 130,000 Cook Islanders not only within the Cook Islands, but in New Zealand and Australia as well. And majority of these Cook Islanders have traditional rights to their lands and properties in the Cook Islands. So the only problem about these Cook Islanders is that about 90% of them live or reside in other countries. Like how I mentioned before, most of the Cook Islanders are residing in New Zealand and Australia as well. New Zealand is responsible for the Cook Islands foreign affairs, and they have a responsibility to exercise in consultation with the Cook Islands. Um, yes, before I finish off the background of the Cook Islands. Lands in the Cook Islands are not for trading, or it is not for any monetary activities. The land traditional tenure in the Cook Islands, um, everything changes when the annexation in 1901 took place by Great Britain, where Great Britain were responsible for giving the Cook Islands administration to New Zealand. They gave control to New Zealand, where New Zealand were to establish new rules and laws, not by force, but by choice. And they are to, their responsibility is to take care of the Cook Islands. Um, the traditional land tenure in Cook Islands, um, before um, before the changes, the annexations and everything, landholders who lived in the Cook Islands are to use their lands to build for building, gardening, and gathering. Um, Second, Cook Islanders' rights to were not only to the land, but these rights were from a decent group, where the group rights held the rights to the land. Also, decisions about land were a matter for senior men in the Cook Islands. Um, so yeah, in 1901, Britain handed Cook Islands administrations to New Zealand, and New Zealand established a rule where there is literally no sale of land in the Cook Islands. You can lease, but the ownership of the land is in the hands of a Cook Islander. It must be in the hand of a Cook Islander. Also, all Cook Islanders became citizens. Mind you, majority of the Cook Islanders are residing in New Zealand. Land can be bought by the government. It can only be bought by the government. No non-Cook Islanders can bought land. Only the government and the public of Cook Islands.
So I'm Les Harper. I'm the other part of this team. 1957, there was more changes that took place in that the courts decided that all Cook Islanders would have equal rights to ancestral land. And that in itself sounds like a wonderful opportunity for the Cook Islanders. However, there were some things that had to be dealt with. First, as Lynn mentioned, most of the islanders did not live in their own country. They lived away, everywhere from Tahiti to New Zealand, Australia, and other countries. So to get a family together to determine what their ancestral land was and who was entitled to each was a very difficult process. It wasn't just about your own personal ancestry, it was about the ancestry of your parents, in other words, where they were from, your grandparents, and in the traditions or local land locations of generations beyond that. A very difficult process. The other thing is that a family meeting would have done a lot of good to solve this sort of problem. But because people were so distant, it was very difficult to bring anyone together to be able to resolve these sorts of things. It was utter chaos. In settling the lands, it was utter chaos. The 1957 ruling, the judges that made this decision felt they had the best interest in the Cook Islanders in hand, but it turned out to be a ruling that just made a mess of what was in place. So, as the quote mentions, This settlement or this court action favored the powerful, the knowledgeable, and the rich because it was chaos trying to figure out how it was all going to come to pass. Anyone from the outside islands that wanted to come in and to Rarotonga and settle had no place to go because the rules were difficult to understand. And even if they couldn't manage the process that was necessary. So with that, thousands of plots of land were left unused or unclaimed. There was so many people that didn't know what to do and didn't have the legal right to claim certain areas that things were just left. And if you can imagine, almost 90% of the people that were entitled to that land did not even live in that area. It was chaos. It was very difficult to resolve. And with that, a lot of things were left to just take care of themselves. So April 20th, 1965, independence came. And with independence, the hope is that the Cook Islanders would be able to step forward in a bold fashion, be able to resolve their land tenure problems and put things back in their own hands in a way that would be amiable for everyone. However, self-government was somewhat a limited venture because it was in free association with New Zealand. In other words, you also, as a Cook Islander, had New Zealand citizenship. With that also, the New Zealand government had an influence upon the decisions that were made by the Cook Islands. The Cook Islands were not represented in the United Nations. Any representation they had at the United Nations came through the New Zealand government. So the independence that was looked for with gaining that, their governance just did not really resolve things the way they had hoped. It is interesting to note that New Zealand still supplied the military, still supplied a lot of the services for the Cook Islands. It left the Cook Islands kind of as you might say, the little brother. He still had to pay attention to what the big brother did and said to maintain their status at all. So this is a video. I'm just going to show it to you, part of it real quick. This goes back to 1965 when the island became independent. It's just a bit of video kind of showing what it was like and some of the celebrations that took place. Hang on. Right there.
Pomp and ceremony of other parliaments is brought to Avarua, when the governor opens the first parliament of the Cook Islands under the new constitution, with a message from the Queen.
Watched with great interest by many communities beyond the seas. Majesty the Queen expressed to me the most direct personal interest in this occasion and charged me to give you her greeting. I now read out once again the message she sent you on Constitution Day. On the occasion of Constitution Day, I send my warmest greetings to all my people in the Cook Islands. Although I have not yet been able to visit you in person, I've always rejoiced to hear news of your progress and welfare.
The Prime Minister, Mr. Holyoake, brings greetings from the people and Parliament of New Zealand.
They to be remembered and celebrated by you, the government and the people
of the Cook Islands. Unless you want to change it, the close links which we have enjoyed with you for so long will continue just as before. And citizens of the Cook Islands will still be citizens of New Zealand, entitled to the rights and the privileges and the protections to which New Zealanders are entitled.
Mr. Albert Henry, the Cook Islands' first Prime Minister, replies to the Governor General and other speakers.
We have this morning witnessed a truly historic and moving event. I might add that it may go down in history that the opening of the Cook Islands Legislative Assembly is the longest opening in the history of the Commonwealth. Your presence here on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen have accorded us the great honor of opening the first Parliament of the Cook Islands under the new Constitution. Last month, Dr. Tamarua and I expressed before a forum of the United Nations that self-government was the wish of an overwhelming majority of the Cook Islands people. It now remains for us to prove to the world that our choice was the correct one. And in the belief that each subscribes to the common good, the government of the Cook Islands will advance confidently under collective leadership, individual responsibility, and public participation. So help me God.
As you can see there, it was the bringing together of two very different worlds, an island nation and a first world nation in the New Zealand. It must have been difficult looking at it, as the Prime Minister mentioned, the idea of bringing it together with public participation, with governance, with things that would allow the Cook Islands to stand on their own and be represented in the world. That 1957 decision, that court decision, was accepted by many as the old tradition. In other words, the way it used to be. And I think there was a real lack of education. If you take a look at this next little video, it's just about 90 seconds long. The people are mainly old, and just watch how intently they're listening to the speaker. And if you hear what the speaker says, even he did not have any definitive answers.
Message title I've put the various versions of the title in the book, and said someone else needs to write a book on the subject, because I can't reach conclusions. All that is established there is that the current holders of that title are not from the natural line. The issue here is whether he was a son of Tuakino or was from the Herrera line. And that's for someone else to reach conclusions on, as I was unable to reach conclusions. So this covers most of what I wanted to say tonight. What I'm hoping people will do is carry out their own research and use this as an encouragement to do so. If you don't put on paper what your elders boomers know now, when they die, you won't be able to. A lot of material has already been lost and needs to be recorded. Again, similarly with photographs, we spent most of today in the Alexander Turnbull Library looking at Cook Islands photographs. There are not many there. So again, if you've got old photographs, it's very important that you preserve them and perhaps.
So there you have it. Like, records were lost. Any records that did exist, some of them were damaged or misplaced. Some of it was just an oral history, and because of that, it was hard to connect families, hard to figure out this traditional land equalization. So in an effort to try and improve upon things, the Unit Titles Act of 2006 took place, and it was proclaimed in that act that land could now be subdivided or leased. Well, I guess we've yet to see how this will take care of things, but it still doesn't avoid the facts that 130 Cook Islanders live throughout the world. 90% of them live outside the Cook Islands, with of course 65% of them living in New Zealand. And most average people living in the Cook Islands who want to claim land don't have the ability to pay for the legal costs. It's just beyond their abilities. So what are the solutions? Right now, the politicians are really struggling with this. They don't know how to find solutions to the problems. It's just kind of beyond the scope of the average person. Albert Einstein said something about that, in that when we look to solve the problems we created, we have to think beyond the way we originally thought. And so I think that's probably the way the Cook Islanders have to look at this. The possibility is, well, don't look to New Zealand, because they've had a mess of a time with their own land challenges with the Maori, and trying to figure out who actually owns the land. The picture on the right shows that if you're a woman and you want to claim land, you have to gain status. They don't even really recognize you as a person, an individual. So they've got that problem. Maybe we should just go with private land ownership overall, or look specifically to let the small local population deal with the land, either by inhabitants or allotments, just set aside so that people who are still remaining there will have the opportunity to have somewhere to live. You got to remember, this is 15 different islands, 17,000 people. People are spread all over the place. There's land potentially there if it could just be sorted out. The large absent land or population, large absent population is another problem. Maybe, like some other countries, Cook Islands needs to look at, if people either do not come back to their home islands or home country, or if they do not work that land, that they lose possession of it. So, another opportunity, another possibility. Foreigners are always wanting to purchase land. The Chinese are very strong in the Pacific, looking to try and take whatever they can. So maybe there's some consideration that has to be given to foreign people owning the lands. To go along with that, taxation. If people own this land, they can be taxed for it, and the taxes will help support the government, which is also something that the government is struggling with right now. Or simply put, you restrict the land ownership to the citizens of the Cook Islands and just call it a day at that. Overall, it's pretty messy. In 2016, a group of the traditional chiefs got together and made the recommendation that land tenure be taught in the schools so that the mistakes that this generation have made will not be repeated by generations of Cook Islanders in the future. It's something that's going to take a lot of time and thought to be able to figure out. You notice the YouTube site at the bottom. We came across a site where it teaches foreigners how to buy land in the Cook Islands, which in itself is a terrible thing, but they must have found a legal way to work around it. So it's an opportunity for some wonderful future leader, perhaps alumni of BYU Hawaii, to go home and make a difference in their home country of Cook Islands. We are grateful for the time you spent listening to us. Lynn and I are grateful for the time we were able to learn more about the Cook Islands. Lynn was due to do an internship this year in the Cook Islands, and this might be as close as she gets to it. So thank you everyone for listening, and aloha.
Thank you.